Hi, I'm Ryan Davis,
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
and this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken.
Hey, Kiernan.
Oh, Ryan, right before recording, I popped in an Altoid. I had never done that before, but I realized with such a good mic, it was every click on the teeth was being picked up. I see you're hacking up something good on your side. Thank you for pressing the cough button. Good Lord.
How's your Altoid?
Is that vaping? You can't vape anymore, buddy.
I do not vape. I don't smoke. My mom listens to this show.
Well, Ryan, today we've got a squeaky clean topic that even Judy Davis will be happy about. You're not going to bring anything sketchy in here because what we're talking about is how to pack. The philosophy about how to get all the stuff you need, to leave behind all the stuff that you don't need, and to make the most use out of a tight space.
It's funny. It already shows how different our approaches are going to be if you refer to suit packing as a philosophy. For me, it's like really tactical.
Well, that's I think exactly right. See, I have kind of a larger strategy, but the tactics can change based on what type of trip I'm taking. So that's very fascinating to hear. And I think you, as you say, we're a little bit of an odd couple, a little bit of the kind of neat, stuck. I was going to say stuck up. I don't want to call myself stuck up. Sort of the neat, anal retentive, overly organized. And then you, who are, sort of a mess.
Yeah. But I very rarely pack poorly. So
that's because you often leave behind everything you need.
That's a metaphor for a lot going on in my life.
But before we dive into packing, because there's so much to unpack, really. I know. We have to put out another call for an upcoming guest. Now, this is very important, listeners. We need some of you to contribute your travel disasters. That's because we've got a guest coming up. Her name is Sarah Fersheen, and she has a new New York Times travel advice column called Tripped Up. And I just want to read the description of what Tripped Up seeks to do. Sarah says, I will help Times readers get restitution for their thorniest travel misadventures while providing tips and takeaways that steer onlookers away from the same fate. And we put out the call last week. I did get a bunch of travel disasters, but we're looking for the best, like 3 to 5 to feature on the episode. So if you've ever encountered something that you didn't expect to, and I don't want this just to be like the airline lost my luggage. I want to hear, I landed in.
No, it's like the airline lost my son. That's a disaster.
Exactly. Or, the airline insisted I store the baby in the overhead compartment. And the baby
babies don't go there?
Honestly, I haven't traveled with Charlie yet. I couldn't tell you. For all I know, I mean, he could fit very comfortably under the seat.
As long as he can breathe there, I think it's probably fine.
The only thing is he would shift during takeoff and landing, so you don't know where.
It's like a ride. It's like.
I mean, he does like to be rocked. I mean, isn't that basically what that would be like?
Yeah, I think so.
So
check with Catherine.
So we have 2 ways that you can let us know about your travel disasters. The more popular way seems to be the email. So the email is outofofficepod@gmail.com. And Ryan, what's the other way that folks can get in touch?
They can hit us up at the old Instagram, Podcast.
That's right.
Podcast.
3 O's in podcast. A little different than the email handle. Very good branding.
Yeah.
And you just got to slip into those DMs.
Slide.
Yeah, slip. You just slip right into those DMs. I'll even put up a post this week to remind folks.
Okay, boomer.
And who knows, maybe if your travel disaster is good enough, maybe Sarah will even bring it into the New York Times. Wouldn't that be something?
Whoa. Oh my gosh, I want to tell her about my Brazil trip.
Yeah, I mean, really, you're just such a travel disaster in yourself. We could just do a therapy session between Sarah and you.
Totally. That would be off the record, though.
And Ryan, I also have one piece of feedback from a listener. It's a listener who's close to my heart, and it's my brother Brendan. Happened to see him this week, and Brendan told me enough with WoW Air. So no recalculating this week. I mean, there's obviously more WoW Air news. There always is.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna let WoW Air, until they hire us as the official WoW Air podcast. We're going to take a back seat, maybe focus even more on Peru.
We could be like, oh, wow. Or wow. Oh, get it?
No, I don't get that.
Oh, like Out of Office?
No, I got that, but what is oh wow?
Oh
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be the rebranding campaign
yes,
for
that's
WoW.
what I'm trying to give. I'm giving you the WoW Airline pitch here.
So in other words, in me telling you that my brother didn't want to hear any more about WoW Airline, you've decided, well, let's talk about the new branding campaign for the airline and do another 5 minutes on it.
No, I think oh wow should be the name of the podcast. Oh, out of office. Wow. Wow.
That would be. The problem is, it's probably going to go under again in another month or two, and then where would we be?
Yeah, back to our own podcast.
We'd have to be Delta. I mean, that would really be the dream.
I'm fine with that. Yeah,
and you Delta? Don't have to pay us, Delta. Just give us status. That's all we ask.
Oh gosh, please.
Well, Ryan, if we're going to be flying around on WoW or Delta, that means we're going to have to pack our bags, and that's the topic of today: how to pack. It's amazing we got to episode 58 without. Yeah. Diving into this.
Ever bringing any luggage with us.
And, I think you were right. This is sort of the spiritual sequel to the Luggage Throwdown, where you and I each designed our perfect suitcase. I feel like today it would be easy to tip into, the logistics of a suitcase. I don't want to get into that. No, this is all about the philosophy and tactics of packing your bag.
Yeah, listeners can go back, and we'll link in the show notes to the Throwdown.
Absolutely. All right.
I think it's time that we take off, and Delta, please upgrade me.
Tell the cabin crew.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
Ryan, as you mentioned at the top, you and I, we're different sorts. I think that's what makes this work. And when it comes to packing a suitcase, I have a sense that we have very different approaches. So what I would like to do is I have a few framing questions. And I would like us to argue out the different and better ways to pack a bag. And I will say, you're probably going to be surprised. I usually come on here with all sorts of frameworks and rules.
Yeah.
And I actually do not have a single framework or rule package for packing, because I think that it really depends on what type of trip you're taking, how long, and what luggage you're packing in. So instead, I want you to be more broad-minded about all the different ways that you might pack, and then choose the right one for you.
I think that makes the most sense. I mean, we don't know what some folks might be professional Barney impersonators. They might have to pack a massive Barney costume, and that's going to be a different kind of problem to deal with, right?
I mean, that is a really weird example.
I don't know. I was going to say somebody might be a musician and have a guitar, but that seems too basic.
I probably would have gone with a bass, one of those big upright basses.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've seen those. What's the famous celloist? Yo-Yo Ma. Yo-Yo Ma buys a seat for his.
Is that right?
It is, yeah, but not everybody can do that because not everybody has.
Is Yo-Yo Ma? That's a cello. If you're talking a bass, I'm not sure. You'd probably have to buy 2 seats.
Yeah.
Or one standard American seat. I mean, that's a big boy. And no, you make a good point, and that's why you have to be flexible. And I mean, how often am I advocating for flexibility? I mean,
almost never.
Almost never.
Yeah.
I like every second planned, and even if it's for spontaneous fun. Yeah. And
you can just Ziplock the joy right out of it.
Well, it's interesting that you say Ziplock, because Ziplocks are one packing method that I actually employ. But we're not going to be quite there yet. I want to start out with how you approach figuring out what to pack.
Well, how do I? You asking me?
You're the other person on the microphone. So yes, how do you figure out what to pack?
So it depends on obviously where I'm going, how long I'm going is probably the number one most important thing.
Yeah.
And do I have a fancy business meeting or do I have a fancy dinner? Do I need to bring a suit? Bringing a suit complicates the packing situation
tremendously.
Without a doubt. Non-suit, pretty easy way to go, but suit, all of a sudden you've got your suit. What do they call those things? Your suit bag? I don't know.
Yeah, the suit bag.
Suit bag.
Yeah, I know the suit bag. And do you pack the suit bag into a suitcase, or do you carry the suit bag separately your carry-on?
If it is a short flight, and I know that I'm going to be able to hang my
sure.
If I'm going to get upgraded, I can hang my suit.
Yeah,
I would definitely. But if not, I sometimes will risk it, and I will just fold it in the little suit bag, and just sort of pray to the gods of ironing that I can make it work when I get to Des Moines or wherever I'm going. So yeah, I very rarely will carry it because I already have my carry-on as my laptop bag, which has all the important stuff in it.
That's right. And so you've pointed out correctly. Like first, I think length of trip is one of the most important things because that's going to determine all the different clothes that you're going to need. And then the second is what are the activities that you're doing while you're there?
Right.
So you rightly pointed out, if you have something more formal or if you go into a nice restaurant where you might have to throw on a blazer.
Or God forbid a wedding.
Oh, I mean, God forbid a black tie wedding.
Yeah. Oh,
because I mean, if there's anything harder to carry on than a suit, it's a tux. Because that really shows the folds.
I have seen some bridesmaids dresses in Delta economy. I'm like, that poor woman. I don't know how she's getting that there.
And of course, you also have to look ahead to what is the weather going to be like during the time that you're there.
And this I forget constantly.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
It's always news to me that the weather's different in other places.
In different places.
Yeah. So I'm constantly like, I should have brought a jacket. It's snowing.
Well, and you also have to I feel like you can look at the long-term forecast, but the truth is I've got a great friend who's a meteorologist. He says, if you're looking more than 2 or 3 days out, it's pure guesswork. So you really have to be ready for all different types of circumstances, no matter where you're going.
Yeah, I even feel like 2 to 3 days out is being very generous to the weather community.
It is amazing, though. Don't you often think so you're a person, you don't even, look ahead and put into Google, what's the weather in this city that I'm going to?
Right.
I mean, imagine how people packed before the internet, before you could look up weather in other cities.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they back in the day, they would have massive steerage. They would bring pretty much everything they owned on the boat with them or whatever.
I mean, I'm not going that far back. I was talking the 1980s.
Yeah. You don't think they had
about moving from Ireland?
I'm sure in the 1980s that what you did was you called information. You said, "What's the local weather number for Des Moines, Iowa?" Then you called that up. And I
think it was all about the Weather Channel back then. I remember growing up with the Weather Channel, and it actually, filled that need. We don't need it anymore.
Didn't AAA also, when they would give you your trip thing, have weather, set this next 7 days of weather printed out?
Yeah,
magic.
It's fun. It's funny too because it goes back to that same point that you made on our travel visa episode, which is it takes about 1 minute in the internet age to look up this information, and so many people forget to do it. So look what travel visa requirements are. Look what the weather's going to be, for goodness sake. And so, Ryan, I actually start a checklist about a week out from when I'm going on a trip. And I'm not talking about an overnight business trip. I'm talking about a proper vacation.
Right.
And I have my clipboard and I fill out. Often I keep it on the refrigerator when it's not on the clipboard so that whenever a need pops into my head, I get it down because it's so easy to forget. For example, I know you and I both like to bring a book light. Right? That.
Oh my God. My book light goes with me everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. But I can't tell you how many times if I didn't do my checklist in the rush of packing the day before, I walk out and I go, oh my God, I forgot my book light. And the vacation's ruined. It's ruined.
Yeah. My book light lives in my laptop bag.
So I think that is a great tactic, which is to have a certain set of things that you always know you're going to want on a trip and keep them in the suitcase that you're likely to be taking.
Yeah, I for a while I kept my passport in my big suitcase, but then that got a little scary to me. So
yeah, well, and also, if you were just going on a short jaunt to Mexico as you're wont to do, and you didn't take that suitcase,
these days I don't even need a passport to get to Mexico. They just wave me through, Senor Ryan,
amigo,
come in.
I do think that passport often tops that checklist, but I'll tell you, it does de-stress the packing process to know that you've thoroughly thought through everything that you're going to need. You have it listed there, and it brings order to the chaos.
So this might surprise you, but I also do a checklist for trips that are multi-city, multi-week.
I'm shocked.
Yeah,
I'm shocked.
It's important for me to have clean underwear for every day, so I have to write down 10. I figure out what is a realistic amount of days I can pack.
Yes.
And then I do this thing where if I'm on a long trip, I'll alternate between a hotel and Airbnb because there at the Airbnb I can do my laundry.
So I'm doing laundry, I think, is an absolutely key tactic that folks do not think of. If you're going somewhere for 2 weeks, if you can do laundry right in the middle, you only need to pack 1 week's of clothes. That saves you half the space.
And be smart, folks. Don't if you're at a hotel, unless you're Bill Gates, don't send your laundry to be done at the hotel. often you can just type in your little Google Maps and say laundromat, and you can just drop your laundry, have somebody do it for like $9 versus the hotel, which would charge you, I don't know, $1,500 to do 6 socks and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I think that's about the right price.
It's probably like only second to alcohol for the markup that it actually takes.
I mean, the thing about alcohol is it's worth it, you know?
Yeah, no, that's true. A crisp, clean starch shirt doesn't bring much joy to me on vacation. And I also think packing layers is very important. Like, I actually think besides underwear, socks, undershirts, you should be able to get at least 2 wears out of everything that you're packing in there, so
That's
don't
why
be afraid.
sweaters are great.
Sweaters are great. Blazers are great.
Yeah. Blazers are great, but then again, you have to like make sure it doesn't get all wrinkled and destroyed in your travel.
But luckily, a blazer with some jeans in a lot of cities that can get you into a fancy restaurant as long as as long as there's a nice clean cut of jean.
You've been out with me before, then you've seen my one look.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually better than a lot of your suits for what it's worth.
Oh.
All right, so you've got your packing list, and you've really walked through all your itinerary, what the weather's going to be. You know what you have to fit. Now it comes time to choose the size and type of luggage that you're going to go for, and you have to decide: do you want to check? Are you going to try to just carry on? And chances are, if you're just carrying on, you're probably going to go over the weight limit. So you've got to anticipate. Am I going to be able to get past all the different eyes at the airport so that I can actually get this over large thing into the overhead compartment?
Why would you? I just check. That's what I do.
I place great value on my time. I would much rather carry on than check, because that can save you an hour.
This is the man with a different facial care regimen. As a gay man, I have like 9 different like little bottles of tinctures and things I put on my face to keep the horror of time from being too evident, right? So if I can't take all those little things out at the and put them in a plastic baggie, it doesn't even fit. They're going to think I'm some kind of like lotion terrorist, So
an official designation by the TSA, lotion terrorist.
I'm what you call an always check. I check.
Wow, you're an always check.
I'm an always check. Yeah.
Wow, that's shocking. Oh no, I'm a carry-on 9 times out of 10.
I can't even think of the last time I've carried on.
That's amazing. So you actually can't answer my next question, which is how long can you go on a trip in just a carry-on? I can do 11 days.
I can do 1 day because I can put a change of clothes in my computer bag, which I've done many times. Like when I go into DC for the day, or I'm going to Boston for the night, and I know I don't need a suit. Then I'm just like, okay, I can put enough in my little computer bag that I can, get through the next day.
Hold on. So you're saying you check a bag even when you're going for 2 nights to Washington, D.C.?
Well, I'm taking the Amtrak to Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay.
I'm not,
right.
what's wrong?
Fair. Okay.
Yeah.
But if
the Amtrak, they don't care what you bring. You could bring like a horse. They'd be like, do they have a ticket?
Okay, but if you were flying to Chicago for 2 days, you would check a bag.
100% I check the bag.
Oh my God, that is shocking, and it is
don't
a
like
waste
the
of
whole
time.
opening up the bag to pull the stuff out, and that means I have to pack my skincare products and stuff in a way than I do now. 'Cause what I do now is I just throw them in that one section that's like the non-closed section with the little it's the little like see-through kind of section. I don't know how you describe it. The non-closed section.
Yeah, the netting. It has the netting.
The netting section.
Do you? I forget. You do not have TSA pre, right?
I'm not pre.
Which
no.
is the craziest thing.
Well, I'm Delta Gold, so you know.
But you're TSA free. You're not TSA free. You host a travel podcast.
Well, I'm gonna get it, and it's gonna be a whole episode about how hard it was to deal with this bureaucracy of TSA pre.
I mean, I'm just wondering, I don't know about the TSA vetting process. For all the things that you've said on this podcast, you might not. Yeah, I mean, now that they know that you might be a lotion terrorist, I'm not sure that you're going to get the check.
The one that gets a lot of Americans is they went to Cuba prior to the window you were allowed. I went in that window.
That window. It haunts me, that window.
Yeah.
Catherine and I said, well, we don't have to rush there. We'll be able to go forever.
I have friends who were denied pre-check because of their unauthorized trips to Cuba.
That is insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But see, I think you have over-anxiety about the lotions and tinctures, because I will say when you're TSA pre-check, I think you get a little more leeway than when you're with the hoi polloi over in the standard line. So I could see where you've got carry-on fear.
But I'm the last one to board, right? When they call like section 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever.
Yeah.
I board when they say Ryan Davis,
Right.
Ryan Davis.
Right. Steerage, Irish need not apply, and then the Ryan Davis category.
So there's not a lot of room by the time I get into the plane.
I'm
trying to spend as little time on the plane as possible. Other people's strategy is like, how much time can I spend on the plane? I want to board first. I want to just sit there for an extra 50 minutes and just enjoy this horrible seat.
Well, but that's because of your strategy of always checking, of being an always check. By being an always check, you don't have to worry about the overhead space.
I never think about it.
There is a lot to be said for that, because I have great anxiety about getting in that check. And so I'm one of the horrible people that like presses in and lines up before my section gets called, because I'm desperate to get some overhead space.
Now, in the worst case scenario is you lug your bag, your stupid bag that's too big to be a carry-on anyway, into the gate. You're there, and then all of a sudden they say, overhead's full, we're going to be checking bags right here. And then you've had to go through security with this massive bag. Now you're going to have to pick it up at the anyway.
Yeah, you got to go to the check anyway.
Yeah.
The worst part of that is I've noticed this trend among folks that work at the desk at the airport, and they will say they're out of overhead space far before they're actually out of overhead space. Oftentimes I'm getting on a flight. Yes, maybe I'm sitting in the back, and I get back there, and there's still like 5, 6, 7 empty spaces for suitcases above. And, they're being overly cautious so that everyone doesn't have to pass their suitcase back out. But I'm sorry, I do not appreciate that. They should know how many. I mean, it's not that hard to count how many more carry-ons are coming onto the flight.
Yeah. It shouldn't be that hard.
So I've got the carry-on anxiety. You're an always check. But now we have to talk about, the core of packing is organizing your clothes, right? We've chosen the clothes. Now, how are we going to maximize? I mean, by being an always check, you have a distinct advantage here, because space will not usually be that much of a pressing issue for you, because you can take a huge suitcase.
Right. I can take I have my huge suitcase, which is for like trips above 10 days. And then I have my below 10 days suitcase. I learned my lesson, back when I was a travel amateur. I was traveling to LA, and I didn't get to the airport in time enough to check the bag, and it was too big. So literally, they put me on the next flight. And I was with a colleague from work who was like, "This amateur." So I never made that mistake again.
Do you weigh your bag before you get to the airport?
No, I have an uncanny sense to know exactly what 50 pounds.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I have a little scale that you like hook onto it and you lift it up before you get to the airport.
You do not.
I do. I absolutely do.
Oh my
Hold
God.
on, I'll show it to you right now.
I feel like
Hold it
Cuny's
up.
apartment is only travel accessories.
No, I desperately needed this because I've had a couple bad experiences. When I was moving back from London, I could only pack everything I owned into 2 big suitcases. And I got to the airport and I said, I know this is overweight. The company has agreed to pay for any additional poundage. So just charge anything you need. And they said, well, we can't. I said, why not? They said, because this bag is so over heavy that it is legally not allowed on the flight.
What?
Yeah. And so I said, well,
that's
what?
discrimination against folks who have heavy bags,
And I said, what am I supposed to do? And they said, oh, there's a trash can over there. You're just going to I think they called it a bin because they were British. There's a bin over there. You've got to throw away until you get underweight. And I had to throw away a pair of gum boots, those like incredibly heavy waterproof rubber boots that I still today think about what a waste. I had a few wears out of them. I absolutely loved them, and they're gone forever.
Well, that is heartbreaking.
A tragic story, but anyway, it taught me to weigh before I go to the airport. And so,
is there a Kiernan like maxim for that? Like weigh so your duck boots can stay.
They were gum boots, not duck boots.
I'm sorry. Weigh so your gum boots can stay.
I mean, I like that. I hadn't thought of it, but sure. Yeah. That'll be the next T-shirt we market on the website.
Hot seller.
So so you've talked about the difficulty with like folding and being worried about, the stuff coming out as a mess. So I basically see that there are 3 ways that you can put and organize clothing in your suitcase. The first is just simply folding them up like they would be in your drawers and organizing them into the suitcase. Here's my shirt pile, my pants pile, my socks and underwear section, and then any of the outerwear that you need. That's what you do.
But I'm lucky because I live in New York City. So my clothes get professionally folded. So they're perfectly folded. So all I have to do is Usually what I do is I'll figure out what I want to pack, and if it's all dirty, I'll just drop it off, and then they'll deliver it, and it'll be in this like little tiny like ball, and I can just put it right in my suitcase.
Oh, amazing. So you don't even unwrap them when they come back from the dry cleaner.
No.
That is a brilliant travel hack because
Thank you.
they're so compressed.
It's perfect.
They've wrapped them so that they can maximize the number of deliveries. Ryan, that is just a genius tip.
Yep.
So
Hey,
send them out to the local wash and dry, and they will Ziploc them in. They suck all the air out.
Yeah.
And then that tightens them as tight as they can be.
Yeah, and that's what I bring.
That's very, very good, Ryan.
Thank you.
So I have played around with several different tactics. One is these packing cubes. Have you seen packing cubes? They're like these little zippered compartments. They're kind of a nylon material.
I've seen them on like late night TV when I've stayed up too late, and it's like $19.99, all the packing cubes you need.
So I have some fellow travelers that absolutely swear by these, and so I did get a couple as a gift. And I've tried them a couple times. I got to say, they're not for me. They don't compress in the way that I think that any sort of organizational tool like that and implement, like what you get out of the dry cleaning plastic. I was looking for something that saves space. What it really does is it lets you keep it very organized as to what types of clothes are living where in your suitcase, so they don't all get mixed up by day 2, which is often what happens. But packing cubes for me, they're not a must-have. I think that they're maybe not a must-skip, but they're not essential to good packing.
Yeah, I mean, I admire folks who have packing cubes, but it says a lot more about their entire life than it does just their.
Well, so I will tell you, like, I seem like the type of person that would like packing cubes because it gives a nice, clean organization inside. But I will tell you what I do, which I think is a much better way to approach it, which is I order from Amazon 10-gallon Ziploc bags. Okay, so these are big Ziploc bags. You can't get them in the store. You got to order them online. And what you can do is you can apply the same philosophy as the packing cubes. You know, you want your shirts, your pants. Some people like to organize by day. Oh, I know that I'm going to be wearing jeans and a sporty shirt, and then in the evening I'm going to have a button-down shirt.
Wait, don't you unpack when you get there? Because I unpack. If I'm in a hotel room for more than 2 days, I unpack the whole damn thing.
Oh, that's a fundamental difference between us. No, I do not unpack.
I'm an always check and an always unpack.
No, but see, this is the reason that you've left behind wardrobes and wardrobes worth of clothing.
I like to leave a suit in every hotel in the Midwest. It's one of my.
So that it's there
I'm like
when
the
you come
Mormons,
back.
you know. Yeah.
For fear of losing things, I do not totally unpack. I'd have to. If I'm staying maybe 3 nights, I will hang up things that I want to get some folds out of. But no, underwear, socks, jeans, these things continue to live in the suitcase.
I don't live out of the suitcase. I live out of the hotel, out of the Airbnb.
Well, this makes a lot more sense as to why you don't apply something like this separation tactic that I'm talking about. Because what I do is I take all those clothes that some people would put in the packing cubes. I put them in these 10-gallon Ziploc bags, and then I squeeze all the air out, which gets the compression that you get through your dry cleaner trick, and then I zip them right up, and they are flat and fantastic. Like, have you ever seen, you mentioned those late night ads.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen those late night ads about vacuum storage for underneath the bed?
Of course I have, yeah.
It's the same principle, and you could do it with simple 10-gallon Ziploc bags.
Do you reuse these bags? Because, you know,
I do reuse
climate
them.
crisis
I
is
do
real.
reuse them. Yes, I do reuse them.
Okay.
And I will say they can last maybe 4 or 5 trips before they start getting worn out.
Don't they make wouldn't packing cubes just solve this problem for you?
No, because packing cubes are often that kind of nylon netting. They don't do the compression that you need. You need the compression by taking the air out.
I agree.
We agree. And this is why I've impressed more people than I can tell you. You go on a 10-day trip, they see you have packed it all in a carry-on, and you say, with 1 day of laundry, I can pack because I've taken the air out of all this. Now, granted, the thing weighs, 200 pounds.
Right.
But they don't need to know that. That's why I make a big show when I'm walking through the airport past security about how light it is. I
wave it around.
You can only see, if you look at my neck, you'll see the vein popping out, but I whistle and I make it look like, oh, this is nothing in here. But when in fact it is, it's hundreds and hundreds
just
of
sweat dripping
tight,
from your
airless
face.
pounds. Yeah. Now, the other thing that I will say I've seen in some of my travel companions over the years, particularly a very good friend of mine who I've traveled a bunch with named Brian, he takes, He takes what I can only call the chaos approach, which is he tosses into the suitcase without folding every possible thing that he could ever need. And he doesn't care if it gets folded, if there's any organization. You got shirts and pants and everything in a giant jumble. And then he just presses that lid down and gets that zipper closed. And
let me guess, he's a straight guy.
Yeah, he is a straight guy. That's fair.
Yeah, I could tell.
I will say though, here's the one thing that I could see as an argument for that approach. I mean, personally, I could the obsessive compulsive side of me could never do this. But what he is getting is he gets the compression that one wants, because every piece, it doesn't matter where it is, it's just shoved tightly into every corner of the suitcase. I mean, you could not get one more thing to slip in there.
This sort of reminds me when I was a kid and I would go home to visit my mother in Maryland. And instead of bringing clean clothes, I would just dump my laundry bag of dirty clothes, and I would just stuff it as much as possible, because I knew that once I got to Ocean City, my mom has like a washer and dryer in her house.
100% the same thing. I used to go back on I used to take Metro North out to my parents' house right outside New Haven from New York. I had this suitcase. I mean, this thing was humongous. Like, it was almost taller than I was. And I would pack as much laundry as I could possibly get. Luckily on trains, they don't look at weight at all. I would be straining. It would be like Sisyphus pushing that ball up the hill just to get, and eventually a wheel fell off of it because I was just putting way too much weight on.
Yeah, it was funny. I was just on the Amtrak 2 days ago, and a man had a huge suitcase and he was trying to lift it to fit into one of those large suitcase holders, and he couldn't lift it. And he asked the Amtrak person for help, and the Amtrak person said, "The rule is you can only bring what you can lift." It's like a 75-year-old man. So, of course, I get up and I'm like, "Here, I'll help you, sir. I'm not going to lecture you on the rules right now."
Also, who's saying that that's the rule? So you're saying...
I don't know. The Amtrak guy. I don't know.
So you're saying if Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson gets on, he could put 30,000 pounds in the overhead, and that's totally fine.
It's
you and me, we probably max out at about, 25 pounds?
Yeah, I can't even get that 50 up there.
I'm sure the 75-year-old man was like, I'm good. He looks at you. He's like, I think I could handle it a little better than you can.
Hey, I helped. Okay, we did it together.
I'm sure you cheered him on.
Yeah,
good going, guy. So whether you choose to organize your clothing with Ryan's brilliant dry cleaning tip, with packing cubes, I would say try my Ziploc approach, or just throwing them in. This is actually something I'm willing to say. This is personal preference. You have to determine. Do you mind being wrinkled? Would you rather take comfort in having way too much stuff and using that, just throw them in and pack as much as you possibly can? Or are you like me, where you're very anxious about the weight limit, and so you have to figure out how to compress and keep it organized? And I will also say just one more pitch about packing cubes or Ziplocks. This really helps if you're doing a carry-on and your suitcase gets flagged, because they pull you aside. They quickly take out each of the bags. Everything stays organized. It's very easy to pack it right back in. Security guard lets you go on your way. And often, they'll give you a little wink and a nod. Goes, you are a seasoned traveler, my friend, because you are so incredibly organized.
And that's another thing I love about checking, is that I don't have to be there if they're going to go through my bag. I don't have to re-close it. They have to deal with that. Because often I will pack it to the extent that I have to sit on it to close it.
Okay.
Yeah. And in my suitcase even has one of those things that expands,
and you pop that baby open?
Oh, I popped that baby open. Yeah.
Holy God.
I've actually broken suitcases because there's been too much pressure on the zipper, and then when I try to open it, it just pops right off.
I've got that problem with my pants sometimes. You know what I mean, ladies.
Yeah.
Ryan,
he eats a lot.
Ryan, one more question on clothes that I have that I'm just curious about your personal approach. Do you organize by type of clothes, shirts together, pants together, socks and underwear together, or do you organize by what you're going to do with each day?
Oh, no, because I'm an always unpack. So I put all my socks together, all my underwear together, all my t-shirts together, all my dress shirts together.
I do the same. I do the same thing. I have tried.
Who plans what they're wearing each day? And these
I have tried, as a very organized person, I have tried to do that. I've just found it's impossible to anticipate because weather's unpredictable. Sometimes your activities change.
Yeah. You show up and it's like you that day you had planned for a beautiful sunny day and it's pouring down rain. You're like, well, I'm going to have to just still wear my sunny day outfit.
And and it really defeats the purpose of trying to do that when you've got the Ziploc bags, because you want to keep them sealed when you can. And I was always opening and resealing. It was too much.
I would just imagine you would label like the Ziploc bags day 1, day 2, day 3. It's like traveling with Rain Man.
I've aspired to that level of organization, but I just find that it's an impossibility. And so that's what folks should learn, is that even if you're like me and you like to be so incredibly organized, you have to admit that there is some flexibility needed in packing and retrieving items from your suitcase. All right, Ryan. Well, I thought that we would wrap up with some tips and tricks. I've got 4 tips and tricks that I want to recommend to folks. So, Ryan, you've brought in a great tip and trick, which is go to a wash and dry and just pack directly in the shrink wrapped clothing. I think that's very good. I've got a couple more kind of patented out of office tips and tricks that I want to share. I'd like to get your take on. So the first is I do just what I think is a humdinger of a tactic, which is I will take clothes that are kind of reaching their breaking point. Socks that are very worn, shirts that are starting to maybe not smell so fresh. And
you're like, I'll get one more wear out of
exactly.
this, folks.
No, I look for clothes that I can get 1 or 2 more wears out. I pack those for the trip. And then, and this is great, they've done their duty. I throw them away at the destination, thus creating more space for souvenirs or for less tight packing on the way back.
I've always wondered why when you travel, you sort of look ragged and sort of like, boy, you should buy a couple of new shirts.
Yeah, but you know what? You're probably going to look ragged anyway. You've probably, you're in a different time zone. You haven't, you've been in a plane for 20 hours. So you might as well do that in horrible clothing that you can get rid of on the other side.
So I don't specifically pack to throw things away, but I will most definitely, if I look down at my sock the next morning, I'm like, oh, this is a little worn. This is going to be done soon. Then I'll get rid of it. So I get rid of clothes when I travel vastly. Here in New York, I'll wear it until it's just like, no way, I'm getting every inch of this sock out.
Right.
Yeah. But when I'm in, it doesn't seem as important when I'm in Europe. I'm like, I don't need this sock anymore. Yeah.
My second tip and trick, or tip or trick, I don't know if you want to classify these as a tip or a trick, is what I call the Coco Chanel rule. Now, you know who Coco Chanel is?
Yes.
As a fashion maven, I figured you did.
Yes.
And Coco Chanel famously said, before you leave the house, look in the mirror and take one thing off. So, maybe you're wearing a bunch of bracelets and an earring, a nose ring. Take one piece off because you've probably gone a little too far. And in most cases, less is more. This sort of editing of what you're packing, I feel, is incredibly important. Because chances are, when you're like me and you've made the checklist and you've anticipated, I need my rain gear because we might go hiking and I'm going to do it even if it rains. So I got to have rain pants and raincoat and an umbrella and all of the different circumstances. You've probably packed 1 or 2 things that you could live without. And so, make the full list of what you would ideally bring. But if space is tight, apply the Coco Chanel rule. Take one thing out to create the space. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean that seems to make good sense to me. I unlike Coco Chanel, I probably wear fewer layers, so I don't have as much to take one thing off. But
well, and this really applies to the on the other side. The kind of final tip and trick that I have here is that you shouldn't be afraid to buy things on the other side where when you're going to your destination. So
I've had problems with this.
Oh, I'm very interested here because I will say that if things are getting too tight in the suitcase, I'm tipping into needing to check. It is worth it to just carry on, save all that time. To stop by a drugstore and pick up my toiletries that I need, or if I'm going to need new undershirts, just to jump into a Macy's. I mean, it's not a big deal.
Right. If you're the kind of person who buys your facial products at a drugstore, then that's probably fine for you.
Very curious. I mean, I'm looking at your face. These tinctures, I'm not sure they're as important as you think. Would you just look like the crypt keeper without these things?
Probably. Look, there are some things that are really expensive when you travel. Like, you don't want to fly to Copenhagen and be like, I'll just buy some T-shirts there, because T-shirts in Copenhagen are like $45 each.
That's
right?
fair. That's fair.
I didn't pack sunscreen when I was going to Havana because I thought Havana's really sunny. There'd be sunscreen everywhere. No, only in hotels for gringos, and then at the most it was like $50 for a $3 thing of sunscreen. So that can really bite you in the ass if you're not careful. Things like socks, you can buy anywhere, right? But there are certain things I think it's difficult to necessarily buy. Oh, I was in Mexico City and I only packed sneakers, and I was like, I'll buy a nice pair of dress shoes while I'm there. And of course, I have size 12 feet, and so everybody looked at me like I was Shrek when I walked in, and I was like, "Hi!" Like, they were like, "Are you a professional basketball player?" I'm like, "No, I'm just a normal guy who needs dress shoes." So I could not find dress shoes in 12. So.
I mean, I understand the Shrek comparison because all those tinctures have turned your face kind of a light green. So it's a natural, it's a natural association.
I am glowing this morning.
You're not wrong that I have actually flubbed this once or twice. Once Catherine and I were going on a big outdoors vacation, and I had to buy long underwear on the other side, and it turned out to be very difficult to find an affordable pair of long underwear. It was all this like incredibly premium, like, made of aluminum, like high sports kind of, and I just really needed my LL Bean long johns. And so I thought I was saving space. I ended up wasting time on the other side. So you're right. You have to be careful about what you're comfortable buying on the other side. But when it comes to things that you're sure you can get, I think that you can apply this trick. And then, Ryan, I just have two topics that I'm curious to know how you tackle these. The first is, how do you deal with shoes? Because shoes really they're dirty. I know you and we both have size 12 feet. They take up a huge amount of the suitcase. How do you deal with shoes with all your other clean clothes?
Yeah, so if you have to pack a pair of dress shoes, I usually just put them in like a grocery bag,
That's what I do too. I was really hoping that you might have some brilliant insight. Listen, if anybody out there among the listening audience has a brilliant insight on how to deal with shoes, I know there are suitcases that have separate shoe compartments. I've never found that to be very effective. Yeah. Often, on another trip, I'll say, I don't need that. I'll shove other stuff in there. Then they get dirty. It's a whole thing.
My shoes live with in the mesh part, not with the clothes. They live with the carry, like toiletries and stuff.
I mean, it's a standard trick for folks to roll up clothes and put them in their shoes. That's pretty basic. I didn't think that was needed to be said.
Yeah,
but that is how some people maximize the space.
Yeah, because everybody wants to smell like their inside of their shoes. What are straight people even doing with their lives?
They're putting socks in it, to be fair. Socks and underwear. I mean, those things are going to smell anyway.
Those things are the things that take up the least amount of room in your suitcase.
I agree with that. Yeah. This is why I didn't include it on the tips and tricks.
I often do a sock border around like the,
I've done the sock border. I've tried the sock border around the perimeter of the suitcase.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
However, what I like is, you know how it has like it has kind of the tubes in the back for your fold-up handle. I do socks and underwear in between those because it's very hard to compress anything else down there.
That actually makes sense too. But I just like the aesthetics of the sock circle. So.
Yeah, that's true. I like the sock circle. Yeah. So the sock circle, another good tip and trick. But the shoe conundrums continues to be unsolved. Maybe someday we will crack it here on the podcast. If you have any tips out there, outofofficepod@gmail.com, we would be happy to feature a tip for our audience back here. How do you deal with shoes, and especially men's shoes, which are too big, and women's shoes, which have got all those spiky heels.
Hey. I often travel with heels myself, but
Fair point. I didn't mean to gender that. I apologize.
Yeah, no problem.
Ryan, I do have just one last question here, which is, what is your toiletry strategy? Is this something, given that you love to check so much and you've got all these tinctures and lotions?
Always check, yeah.
So you always check all your toiletries?
Yeah, so my toiletries will be in my main bag, and they will be in something like a Ziploc bag. Not as large as yours, but a commercially available Ziploc bag,
like a 1 gallon.
I do have a flag here because I didn't used to Ziploc bag them. I used to just kind of throw them all on the mesh side and let them kind of run wild. And then there was this one trip I took where, let's just say like a water-based lubricant that I needed to travel with. And it exploded
I'm guessing we're not talking about toothpaste here.
No,
all right,
not toothpaste.
Sure. And your mom's still listening?
I hope she's
tuned out.
Tuned out.
Yeah,
it's late enough. water-based lubricant. I get to the airport, everything seems fine. I get to the hotel, open up my bag.
Nightmare.
Water-based lubricant has just exploded everywhere. And
Nightmare.
I had a suit in there that was total nightmare. So now I am Johnny on the spot with the making sure it's sealed.
Johnny on the spot. It's what we always call you. That's good. I would say, though, I recommend 3 toiletries come in your carry-on or your personal item. That is toothpaste and toothbrush, bar of soap. I guess you could use the hotels, but I always hate those hotel soaps.
What? Okay. Well, the hotel soaps are better than the soaps they have at home usually.
No, I like just a bar of dial. That's all I need. So you got your toothpaste and toothbrush, you got a bar of dial and deodorant. Because if you have those 3 things, if you have a horrible layover, your flight gets canceled, you have to do a night in a hotel and you don't have your full toiletry kits, you can get by and still look pretty good and smell pretty decent with deodorant, a bar of soap, toothpaste, and toothbrush.
And again, any hotel you're staying at will be able to supply you with those things in case of an emergency.
Not any hotel. Talk about false expectations. Many hotels of a certain status will.
Yeah.
But many hotels will not have all 3 of those things.
Deodorant's probably the tougher one.
Deodorant, definitely the tougher one.
I am glad to hear that you do wear deodorant. I was very worried with your skincare regimen that you would just sort of like, I brush my teeth a couple times a week.
Lotion, okay? Lotion. You don't have to worry about it. I mean, look at my skin and look at yours. I don't think that you are one to be criticized. This is baby soft.
You look like a guy who just had a child a few months ago. Those dark circles. I can recommend something for that.
That is absolutely wrong. I can't tell you how many people have seen me in person and said, "You don't look like a new dad. You look fresh as a daisy."
That's just called being nice.
No.
Boston people are polite. That's what they're known for.
It's because of the lotions and tinctures that I use. I just don't feel the need to talk about it on the pod as much as you do.
We should start a separate podcast on facial care.
Maybe. So just to sum up, I just want to quickly run through the tips and tricks that we mentioned because I think that those are the most valuable things that you should consider in crafting your own flexible packing strategy. And that is one, Ryan's brilliant suggestion here of sending out your laundry, get it in that tight plastic Ziploc get it in that tight plastic wrapping from a wash and dry or a dry cleaners. Put that directly into the suitcase. That's going to save a lot of space. 2, bring clothes that you can throw out on the other side, which makes room in your suitcase for the way back in case you want to get souvenirs. 3, look at what you've packed and ask whether you actually need it once you've put everything into the suitcase, and remove at least one thing that you can probably live without. 4, embrace doing laundry. This will help you save a lot of space in your suitcase, and oftentimes there's a quick place right around the corner from the hotel, and in a pinch, yes, you can actually pay the hotel to do it, but that's going to get pretty pricey pretty fast. And finally, don't be afraid. Did you hear that?
I did. Charlie's
That's
first
the first time
appearance on the
he's
pod.
ever made it on the pod. All right.
Yeah.
And finally, don't be afraid to buy what you need at the destination. Just be sure you limit it to stuff that you can actually get there. And that you're playing a little bit of a tricky game, but it can be a good space-saving tip. And with that, Ryan, I think it's time for the last stop.
I feel packed. Last stop?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
All right, Ryan. Well, we're here in the last stop. I don't know. Did you catch Charlie back there? I heard a little bit of a little cry back there.
Yeah,
he's clearly sad for the packing part of the episode, the ending. He
had
loves
some
this
packing
content.
tips. He had some packing tips. He was yelling
Listen,
out.
I mean, for what it's worth, packing for a baby, I mean, that is something that is a whole nother episode because you've got just so many. Talk about tinctures. I mean,
don't you just bring just a bunch of diapers? I can't. What else do you need?
Yeah, you just you do a diaper ring around the side of the suitcase. You put the baby right in the center of the suitcase. You just zip it right up. All right, Ryan. So we're here in the last stop. This is the last segment of the show, the final segment of the show. It's your favorite segment, my favorite segment, popularly known as the people segment. It's a moment where we each share one thing that we've read or we thought about, we experienced, maybe a local tourism spot, maybe we went shopping, we bought something, or we cooked something, anything that feeds the spirit of wanderlust within us, even during the workday week. Because you can't always be traveling, but you need to keep that spirit of travel alive. So, Ryan, I have to ask you, do you have a last stop this week?
I do. I was in the great city of Hartford, Connecticut.
I grew up not far from Hartford. It's got some great attractions, and I'd be happy to do a future pod on it, but I don't know if I'd call it a great city.
Well, it's an interesting city. And I was there for work. And
I think everything you need to know about Hartford is that it's the insurance capital of the world.
Yes, you can feel very safe and insured there. So I was there for work, and as Kieran and I often say, it's super important that when you're on a trip for work, try to catch a local site, try to see something. So so when I was in Hartford, I made a point to check out the Wadsworth Atheneum. Have you been there?
Absolutely. I've been to the Atheneum, a wonderful museum. Went through a major renovation and sort of revitalization just a couple years ago. Became a major destination for Hartford.
Yeah. So I was my train was in like 2 hours. I'm like, okay, I can go kill an hour at this like Hartford Art Museum. How big could it be? And as I walk up, I see this extraordinary building that I now know was opened in 1844. Did you know it's the oldest continually operating public art museum in the United States?
Gosh, I didn't know that.
It's awesome. It sort of looks like a castle.
Yes,
the one section. Yep. There are multiple sections. This is why I was a little led astray, because I thought, okay, I can get through this castle in an hour, but you can't. I mean, by the end I was just sort of like running by great paintings, but it is really an impressive collection. It's a beautiful space. The people were lovely. It was the opposite of over tourism. There was like, I could spend as much. There was a Paul Cadmus. I love Paul Cadmus, great painter from the 70s. One of his works that I'd never seen before. Just a really, really beautiful, entertaining, large museum. I mean, you definitely need more than an hour. I next time I'm in Hartford, I'm going to go back and spend like, a much longer sort of afternoon there. But really blown away that I hadn't heard of the museum before, and it is if it was in New York, it would still be like a great museum I would tell people to go to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a gorgeous museum, and they have a great sort of modern art collection. And one of the sort of special little things that if you only have an hour to be there, I would recommend you check out is they have a section that has some furniture, and it's furniture from the 20th century,
right?
And it kind of spans like interesting modern design. And there's this desk there that I have coveted ever since I saw it several years ago. It was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright between 1936 and 1939. And it's this beautiful oval, and it looks very Art Deco and modern. And I have been trying to find a modern version of this desk ever since I saw it. I will post it onto the Instagram. It is just gorgeous, and we will throw the Atheneum into the show notes as well. If you're going through Hartford, even if you only have an hour, they have a great permanent collection, very good special exhibitions, and as I say, it feels just clean, new, light-filled, modern, and interesting.
Yeah, and it was a good flag on the modern art. They had a fantastic Warhol exhibit going when I was there, so it's really fun. I mean, it sort of feels like a mini Met.
Yes.
It's got a little bit of everything. And in a way that most museums, when you're out of a big city, and I'm not, Hartford's a fine city, but it's not Chicago or something.
Right.
Just really a wonderful thing for them to have. So I will definitely be back.
Yeah, it's a bit of a hidden treasure.
Do you have a last stop for us this week, Kieran?
I do have a last stop this week. This is a friend of mine sent a package that I thought was going to be a gift for Charlie, because we've been getting a lot of onesies and blankets and stuffed animals and things for my new child. And I opened it up, and much to my surprise and delight, it was a beautiful hardcover yellow book that just said the word parks in sort of big black letters on the front. And I didn't know about this book. I couldn't believe that I hadn't read about it.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
What it is it's by a publisher called Standards Manual. And it's a book of national park printed materials dating all the way back to 1916. And so I think if you've been to a national park, those kind of maps that you get, and they're very standard looking. They've got
you love the national park aesthetic more than anyone.
I do. I love the national park aesthetic. But what's so fascinating about this history is that it walks you through brochures, maps, advertisements, all of this gorgeously scanned, high quality material that has been amassed by this collector. His name is Brian Kelley. He's a Brooklyn-based photographer and similarly obsessed with this printed material as I am. And there is just so much in here that I've never seen before. It's just a great history, not only of park design, but of graphic design in general throughout the 20th century.
That's fantastic. And, we should get Brian on the show. He's Brooklyn. He's a Brooklyn guy.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, let me write him. I'll see if I can get him on the show. And I'll say, it just has really great photography. He, puts his editorial judgment on this and has pulled the best bits of his collection. Really some nearly lost to time treasures in here. He'd be wonderful to talk to. Ryan, I'm wondering if you know the Standards Manual publisher. They put out a few years ago, quite successfully, the graphic art from NASA. Like the whole brand book that NASA had designed for them.
That's awesome. No, I don't know this publisher, although looking at the cover of the book, it's very distinctive.
Yes, yes.
I feel like I've probably seen it at the Strand or something when I was browsing.
They're very sharp. They've done retrospectives on design in the MTA system, the subway in New York. So
that might be the one that I'm the most familiar with because I have a lot of transit dorks in my life.
Yeah, and also, given the state of the subway these days, you spend a lot of time on subway platforms looking at the number going, when the heck is this train going to arrive?
Yeah, the aesthetic to the subway right now is not great. Yeah,
yeah, it's just grunge rats running through the book. Yeah. So a great book. I thank you very much to my friend Maggie for sending this to me. I thought it was time that we got a present for me and Catherine as opposed to Charlie. Anyone else who wants to send a gift, just write in. I'll send you the address. Let's maybe some bottles of booze. That wouldn't be bad for some new parents.
Charlie's a little young, even for an Irish kid.
That's right. But he's gonna like how happy it makes me and Catherine. Booze and this beautiful Parks book by Brian Kelley. And I'll post all the links to it in the show notes.
And what are we talking about next week, Kieran?
Ryan, I am interviewing a woman, an author who recently published a book called Dark Skies, A Practical Guide to Astrotourism. Her name is Valerie Stimac. And it's part of the Lonely Planet series, but it's not like your typical travel guide. What she's doing is she's telling you where exactly you could go to have the best stargazing, to see the aurora borealis, to see solar eclipses, to visit observatories, anything that has to do with looking into the night sky. Have you ever seen the Milky Way?
I've seen Orion's Belt a lot. I don't know that I've ever seen the Milky Way clear enough to say that I've seen it.
There was one time I was deep in Utah and I was staying at a campsite, looked up, and it was just this beautiful stretch across the sky. These are the sorts of places, these dark sky places. There's even an international dark sky association that we're going to talk about. So tune in next week for my interview with Dark Skies author Valerie Stimac.
Well, lights out until then. I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kieran Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken.
I'm just imagining you labeling each of your little bags.
I mean, a label maker would not be a horrible Christmas gift for me, Ryan.
And you could even put the weather for that day, like 72 and sunny.
Oh, that's good. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Man.
Or you could label your clothes sunny, 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 cold, wet.